Today we're tackling a few easy projects to hang all manner of bottle and cup off of thine belt. Stay tuned. Greetings adventurers and welcome to the Skill Tree, where we learn how to do just about everything. So during my last episode in which I did that little belt hanging system, which I really enjoyed doing, I got a really good amount of responses from that one. So much so, by the way, that we're now offering that pattern in our shop. So definitely go check that out when you have a chance. Anyways, while my brain was in that space, I kind of wanted to tackle like different ways to hang cups and drinking vessels from my belt. Obviously, we can use the same system to like actually hang the thing, but the container, like how are we holding this bottle, right? We're not just kind of wrapping a thong around the throat of the thing and then just kind of hanging it on. We need something that like holds it and keeps it safe. I'm doing this a lot. This is an odd pot. I'm gonna stop it. Anyways, that's today's episode. Today we're gonna do some actually really easy projects that I think you're gonna like and have some fun with, that does the job for us. So without much further ado, let's just jump right into it. Now, very fast caveat, every method that I'm gonna show you here has existed, right? I'm not making anything new, I'm not trotting new ground here. The way I go about making it maybe is new, I don't know. But I wanna learn how to make them, so I figured you might too. And for starters, we're gonna try to make one of these little baskety looking things here. After looking at the general design, I kind of workshopped it and I figured out how to make it. I'm gonna show you right now. So I'm starting by measuring the thing I want to hold. So in this case, I'm using this water bottle here, where at the shoulder, it's about 7 inches. So I'm gonna go 1 inch over that, 8 inches, because I want my little basket thing to completely envelop my bottle. And in general, from kind of my tests here, once you're done cutting it and this thing stretches out, it ends up being an inch bigger than you actually end up making it. So for me, if I make it 8 inches, it's gonna end up being around that 9 inch and it's gonna cover the whole bottle. You're also gonna wanna measure the bottom of your bottle here. This one's around the 3 inch mark, so I'm actually gonna make it 3.5 inches because I know that like most wine bottles end up being around 3.5 inches too, and you're gonna need a base for the bottle to stand on. You don't want the whole thing to become net, right? You want like a nice surface for the bottle to be onto. Okay, so here's the real meat of this thing. We're gonna make ourselves a template. Now, since the height I was going for on my bottle is about 8 inches, I'm going to be making a circle with a diameter of 8 inches. And luckily, printer paper is 8.5 wide by 11, so we can totally use this to get started. Now, to help me lay out this thing more perfectly, I actually fold it in half one way first, and then again in the other direction. This way, when I unfold it, I have a perfect kind of little cross to work from, showing me exactly where the center is. And to help me draw my circle, I'm gonna be using this compass here. Now, if you don't have a compass and you want to get started, you can totally use something like a bowl or whatever. It's going to be a little harder in the process that comes after this to get it perfect, but honestly, I don't think it has to be. I think as long as you're close enough, it's going to come out looking pretty good. Again, you'll see as we go, but yeah, don't worry too much about the tools. All right, so I set my compass at 4 inches, because that'll give us a radius of 4 inches, which when doubled is the diameter of 8 inches. And using that, I draw mine perfect circle. Then I also draw my 3.5 inch circle here, just so I know not to cut that section at all where the base will go. And again, if you're just working with like a bowl or whatever, you can just use the bottle that you're actually trying to make a net for, place that right in the middle, and then just draw around that. That'll work too. All right, so next, you know how you have those fold lines there? We're actually gonna use that to help us line things up as we go. So I just choose one of them and I line my ruler up with it, and roughly every 1/2 inch down, I make a mark. I then use those marks to gauge how wide open I have to make my compass to draw more circles kind of going from the outside all the way in. And this is where you'll be imperfect if you're not using a compass. You can just kind of wing those. Just try to make sure your distance stays roughly the same apart. You'll get roughly there. I think it'll still look okay. With those guides in place, I actually just fold the whole thing back up again so I can see the outside of my circle here. And then I cut it out while it's in this folded configuration. This just makes it a lot easier, like snowflake style, to get it all perfectly symmetrical. Plus, it's just faster. I'm not like going around the whole thing while I'm trying to cut a circle. It's a pain in the ass. Okay, now that we have our circle cut out, I actually fold it back in that original configuration again, and then fold it one more time in half so we have this little pie slice here. Granted, I probably could have done this when it was still in paper before I've cut out the circle. I just couldn't figure out the angle. I kept like over folding it. It's just easier once I cut it out as a circle. I might just be dumb. There you have it. But now when I open it, I have all of these extra pie slices here. And those are gonna be important because we're going to start making cuts pretty soon and we have to vary where we're cutting. And each one of those lines is where we're gonna like mark where we vary that cut. I know that sounds wildly confusing, so to demonstrate, I actually did this in multiple colors, starting with an almost dead Sharpie, marking the lines on the outside here. You'll notice I'm doing a quarter of my circle, so basically from like one line of the original cross over to another line of the original cross. Now the next row down, we're gonna take those same lines and we're just gonna move it a little quarter turn here. So now all the gaps that I leave are actually gonna land right in the middle of the blue lines that we drew earlier. Then we'll turn it a quarter again, mirroring what we did at the top there so that the gaps now line up with the orange line center right there. Just following this pattern all the way down until we have what looks like this here. Alternating gaps using those fold lines just to keep us oriented correct. I really tried to make that as clear as possible because I knew it would be a pain to say verbally, so I really hope that made sense. We'll see. You'll let me know down in the description if I made a real dog's ear of that one. Okay, but now we have our template, so let's move this over to some leather here. And yes, we're using leather for all this project. Sorry, I didn't mention earlier. We're using leather for these projects. I think it's gonna be fine. For this, I'm using a nice 4-ounce vegetable tan leather. Really, it just has to be flexible. I wouldn't really go above 4 ounce because I think it'll get kind of hard to flex. You definitely go underneath that, or you can go for a chrome tan, which would work very nicely as well. If you don't know the differences in the types of leather, check out this video right here. We covered it. Anywho, I just went ahead and taped my template so it didn't move around on me and proceeded to cut my lines that I drew. Again, just making sure to follow those arcs and not go past where I made those little stop gaps there. Then once I was done cutting all those lines, I just cut the entire thing free, giving me this little diced pancake o' leather. But here's the cool thing, watch. You put weight in it, and you just pull it up. Look at that. Isn't that neat? I love that. Like, you can't tell me this isn't wildly satisfying. I love it. And look, it lays back down flat once you let it go, which I love as well. It has this really cool net look to it. Oh, I love it so much. And this is where I'm saying where if you didn't do all those circles perfectly, I don't think it would matter too much. Like, it's nice to have these be really even, but as long as it's doing this general thing, I think it'd be cool to have variation. I bet if you made them purposefully like wavy or something, like what would that look like? That'd be a cool design. Just as long as you're leaving those alternating gaps, it's gonna do this. So what it looks like while it does this, I guess that's up to you. But that's neat, right? But we're not quite done yet, because you never want to just cut lines and then put stress on it. You might end up actually tearing the leather over time. You can't have that stress. So you need to cut little circles in there to alleviate that stress and spread out that tension. So to do this, I just go to the end of every one of my lines here and just punch a tiny hole, that's all. That's just gonna really help it to alleviate that stress and make sure it doesn't tear over time. Then just to make it easier to carry, I added some little D-rings to the edges of it. Now, spoiler for y'all, in my store, I've made patterns for these things. And in the patterns, I actually left little tabs. So rather than adding a new tab, you can just fold those tabs over. You can use them, you could omit them altogether. It's fine. I just thought that'd be an easier way to put like a D-ring on it or something. Envelopes, my little water bottle here, helping to protect it in case anything bangs against it, covering it all up. Of course, it fits a wine bottle, which is very, very important when I'm at events and such. And what's really neat is to like get the thing out that you need, you just lift it up a little bit to relieve the tension. It makes it open right up, and you just pull it out. And then when you're ready, you just drop it back in and the net automatically closes in on itself. I think that's nifty, I like that. And because of the way it works, it doesn't even have to be a round bottle. Like, I have this more awkwardly oblong shaped bottle here, conforms to it perfectly, works great. A lantern, so I don't have to carry it. Fits in there too. Hell, even this paint can here fits perfectly. And the reason I did that is because I realized that in the tent I usually have a little hanging like fabric basket for just random odds and ends to keep it off the floor of the tent. But like, depending how you hang this up, if you hang it so that all the 4 points are stretched out, this isn't tied. So all points are stretched out though, there's a little basket, right? That'll work just like that. Sky's the limit, just depends on how big you make the damn thing. It's cool. Okay, so that is carrier number 1. The next one is super simple and like very straightforward, but I think you could really like jazz it up and make it look as cool as you want to. It's basically made with a bunch of straps. And because I throw nothing away, I happen to have these like inch-wide straps from other projects that are already dyed and I just didn't use. So I'm totally using those, save me a step. And these 1.5-inch wide straps here that aren't finished yet, but like they're long enough for what I need, so we're good. And by long enough, I mean it's long enough to wrap around the bottle that I wish to carry, kind of from the bottom and up the sides here. And both of those straps just so happen to be as long as I needed them, right? You'll see kind of how long we're looking for. It's gonna vary depending on what you're trying to wrap around, but long enough. So I just go ahead and like nip the corners of this bad boy here to round off the edges of them, and then treat the edges by using a beveler, and of course slicking them down to make it look a little more professional. Now see, one strap is roughly 2 inches longer than the other strap here, the ones that are going under the bottom and up the sides. That is because one of them is just gonna wrap around the sides, and the other one has to fold in on itself at those ends just to accommodate a D-ring of some sort. If you're instead putting a grommet or whatever, they can be the same size, doesn't really matter, it's just how I want to attach it eventually to like a strap or something. Next, I hit those straps with a little bit of saddle tan, both on the top side and the underside, again, because it's gonna be shown through a clear bottle and I'd like it to look nice. And then of course, folded in those ends and knocked in my D-rings. And as you'll see, now that those D-rings are in place, these straps are the same size here. All right, so those are the parts just kind of easily made together. Now we're actually gonna start putting the whole thing together. For starters, I'm gonna fold one of those straps that go around the bottom in half, just so I know exactly where half is and I can kind of make a mark there. I do that on both of them, and then I punch a hole where I made my marks so that I can put the two together using a rapid rivet. You're gonna notice I don't actually like nail it down really hard because I want this to be able to twist for me. Now with them together, I wrap them around the bottle and the way they'll go and just kind of lightly mark on one of the straps here, right where the edge of the bottom of the bottle will be. That's like in the last one we did, that's the no-go zone, right? I don't want to do any cuts or anything there. I want that to stay good because that's where the bottle's gonna sit. So using that as my guide though, I can now lay those other inch-wide straps across it and just kind of mark on the sides where that would fall. I'm gonna have a strap kind of close to the bottom and close to the top, so I did this twice and then punched all of those holes. Now we're gonna have to do that for all of them, but they all need to line up perfectly. And that is why I didn't knock that rivet all the way in. Now I can actually twist this bad boy, line it right up with one of the ones underneath it, and use those holes to mark it out. Then I simply twist it around to the other side and do the same thing. Then finally just fold it in on itself to give it the final marks. Once all of those other ones are punched out as well, I go back in with my ruler and I connect the sets of the holes together with a slit. Doing this just gives us nice, easy other little belt type loops to fish those other straps through. I simply weave all of these straps together, both in the bottom and the top, to form kind of a little basket. Then I measure how far they need to overlap to kind of complete the thing around the bottle so that I can end up connecting those together. Now you can just use a rivet or something if you're going to use the same shaped bottle or whatever. I opted actually to put these Sam Brown buttons in. This way I can make it a little bit wider if I have to accommodate that wine bottle again. You'd be surprised how often I end up with a wine bottle. But yeah, look at this nifty little thing, right? It looks pretty slick. You can do it out of any leather. I actually think that the leather I use for the straps that go underneath it are a little thick. I would go a little thinner, and I think it'll conform to the bottle a little bit better, if I'm honest. But yeah, with a veg tan, you can stamp it. You can color it all funky colors you want. I think it's a nice, like, little customizable, interesting thing. And you can make it as tall as you'd like. Just add more straps going around, and you can have this, you know, a really, I don't know, big leather basket, I guess, if you want. And I realized that actually if you just fish the line that you're using to hold it on yourself all the way through everything, then that line will hold the bottle in place. So like as long as there's weight on it, it can't come out at all, which I think is pretty cool until you've like loosened it up and then you can pull it right out if you want. I think that's pretty neat. I think it's got a cool look to it. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, clever, I'm royalty. I don't drink like a peasant from a bottle. I use a chalice. I see you. I see you and I understand, for I also use a chalice. Luckily, carrying around one of these bad boys is an even easier project. You can do this with just scraps. In fact, I am doing this with just a scrap. I had this 2-inch wide cutoff of leather here that's perfect for it. Now for the length, I have 9 inches. That's all I really end up needing, but depending on your chalice, and you're gonna see why, the foot of your chalice, you might need it either longer or shorter. Now, the way this thing looks, completely up to you. I decided to give it a kind of a pennant look to it, so I sharpened the bottom here to make that little point, and just went around kind of cleaning it up. And because this is such an easy project, I decided to jazz it up a little bit by using this edge groover here to groove a little edge just all along it. Then of course I beveled the edges and all that happy stuff. Now, to connect it to the belt, again, you could use my awesome little belt system. But if you don't have that yet, you can just kind of fold it over and punch holes through, just making sure that fold has enough space for like your belt to eventually go through. And those holes, of course, will be for rivets later on though. We'll use later on. Though, once you've figured out like how wide it would have to be to fit your belt, that's where the bottom of your chalice comes into handy. You want to line it up into the space that's hanging down, the space that's remaining, and then mark on either side of where that is. Definitely give yourself a healthy little bit of margin. You don't want to mark like exactly as wide as this is. You want to give yourself, I don't know, like an extra 1/4 of an inch on either side. Just because you got to ease like sliding this thing into the space, and if it's too tight, it's going to be a real pain. But where I made my marks, I just go ahead and punch those little pressure release holes there, and then connect them together with a slit. This just gives me the opening that I can use to hold my chalice, like so. Now, because I can't have anything be this simple and leave it well enough alone, I just went ahead and stamped a little design into it as well. Then I dyed it a royal blue, because it's a chalice, and of course I did. And finally painted the edges with a gorgeous gold, because again, it's a chalice, and of course I did. Finally, once all that dried, I just secured it all together with mine rivets. Again, gold. And bam! Little Chalice Caddy. Oh, that's how cute that thing is. It's super simple, it looks awesome, and it takes care of a problem. And rather than just kind of like putting a rope around this thing and then having to untie it or whatever, you now have like a lovely carrier, which is the colors that you wish of your livery. Yeah, look at that thing, right? That's pretty, hey, that's pretty slick. And again, it's super duper simple, easy to do with some scrap leather. You're bound to have some laying around if you get into leathercraft, or you can get like cheap bags of leather scraps at leather stores. A lot of leather retailers will give you small cutoffs. So yeah, perfect project for doing something like that. And of course, now that you know the design, it doesn't have to be out of leather, right? You probably have to reinforce it a little bit, but I bet you can do that out of just fabric. All right, if you could stiffen it a little bit. Or I bet if you did it out of fabric and then you made a little collar on it that you can bring down so that the fabric won't spread open as you walk, but you can like hold it right there, or a little lace that you tie right there, that would work too. All right, that's all I got as far as these are concerned, but do you have a cool way that you like to hang your drinks on your belt? I feel like this is a very specific like Renfair LARP thing, by the way. I don't know many other people just in their daily life that's like, bro, my drink's hanging on my belt. I guess it's just not a thing we do anymore. Or ever. Did we ever hang drinks on our belt, or is this just a modern Renfair thing? I don't know. Anyways, enough of us go that it's a problem, so solutions, done. Now, thank you, of course, for making it this far. If you liked what you saw here today, I want you to give me some of that like it love, and don't forget to subscribe so you know when I release new content. In the meantime, though, keep leveling up, you. You've made it to the end screen. YouTube loves it when you do that. It's a fantastic way to support this channel. Another fantastic way to support this channel is by joining these people's noble ranks. These are our Patreon members, and we can't do any of this without them. It's because of you I could afford a fine pimp chalice. Special shout out to our newest high tier Patreon member, Chris Crowder, and a massive shout out to our Grandmaster tier Patreon members, Familiar T and Froggy. Again, it's your support that makes it possible for us to do any of the stuff we do here, so it is humbling and incredible that you support us in this way, and we thank you so, so much. If you like what we do here and want to support us, consider joining our Patreon, link in the description below. Otherwise, you check out one of these videos YouTube thinks you'd like, and that helps out a lot too. All right, my chalice is empty. I must go and refill it. Often, it is late and I am thirsty.